Hi, I'm Tiffany Rank, Communications Coordinator for Sidney City Schools, and today I'm with Mike Watkins, the Treasurer for Sidney City School District. Welcome, Mike.
Hi, Tiffany. Thanks.
So first of all, we're going to discuss terminology related to school finance and levies, and so the first thing I'm wondering is how does state law allow public school districts to collect revenue from local sources?
Well, Tiffany, there are primarily two options available to schools to collect taxes locally. Property taxes for one, and an income tax is another.
Okay, and so our community often suggests a sales tax. Is that an option?
A sales tax is not an option for an individual school district to collect on its own. For a sales tax to be collected, it requires the cooperation of all the school districts located in that county.
So let's unpack the two options available to collect local revenue. What are the components of a property tax at the most basic level?
There are two components of a property tax to be collected: the assessed valuation and the millage. If property has a market value, that's the value at which it can be bought or sold at. The assessed value is that amount of the value of the property at which it's taxed. So that's 35% of the market value. That is then multiplied by the millage to be assessed. So for example, 1 mil. 1 mil is equal to 0.001. So you would take the assessed value, which is $35,000, multiplied by 1 mil. That property would then collect $35 per year for 1 mil.
Okay. So the last levy the district tried to pass was an emergency operating levy. What does the term emergency mean when we're talking about levies?
An emergency levy does not indicate that there's an emergency as it once did. It is now just references a levy in which the dollar amount is fixed. So the school district determines the dollar amount of collections that it needs, and then a millage is determined based on that dollar amount. That dollar amount cannot change over time regardless of whether property assessed values increase or decrease in the school district.
Okay, and so then on the flip side, what is a traditional property tax levy?
A traditional property tax levy, the school district determines the amount of millage it needs to assess, and then the dollar amount associated with that millage is then determined. The millage that's originally assessed cannot increase over time. It can decrease over time depending on the property values being assessed during the time. If they increase, then the millage rolls back. But the one thing that does not change is the amount of dollars to be collected unless there is new construction in the school district.
And so new construction can often receive tax abatements. Do you want to explain that a little?
Sure. Simply, a tax abatement is an agreement between the city and a particular business that their new construction will not have taxes levied against it for a determined period of time. Tax abatements can run anywhere from 75 to 100% of the value and can be as long as 10 to 15 years in duration.
So the other option for districts is an income tax levy. Can you tell us a little more about those?
Sure. For an income tax levy, those are taxes levied on individual income. They are not taxes levied on business income. There are two types of income tax levies. The first being a traditional income tax, and that is a tax levied basically on all personal income, including W-2s, interest income, dividends, and retirement income. And again, it does not tax the income of businesses, only individuals. The second is an earned income tax levy, and that is basically taxes levied on working wages only, or what you would find on your W-2.
Who is taxed on an income tax levy?
The individuals taxed on an income tax levy are the residents of a school district. And regardless of where you work, whether it's in the city or outside of the city, any of those wages are taxed on a school district income tax.
Okay, so Sidney City Schools is the only district in our county that does not have an income tax. What is the range of income tax at the various schools within our county?
That is correct, Tiffany. All of the other county schools have an income tax that are levied in their school districts, and they're ranging from the low of 0.75% to the high of 1.5%.
So how do income tax levies work?
So unlike property taxes, in which you get a bill in the mail twice a year based on the assessed value of the prior year, so they're considered collected in arrears, income taxes are collected in two ways. One, they're either deducted from the taxpayer's paycheck when they get paid, or they are paid to the school district after the taxpayer has filed their annual state income taxes.
So between the two general types of allowable levies to collect local revenues, the property tax and the income tax, is there one that is more favorable to our district than the other?
I would not say that there's one that's necessarily more favorable than another. It all depends on the circumstances in the district at the time. Generally, I think it's a good idea to have a diverse revenue stream. We have state funding, which we receive and you hear about, but also to have diverse collections between taxes assessed to property and taxes assessed to income. That way, we are doing our best to broaden the number of taxpayers that are impacted by any one issue.
Yeah. So you mentioned state funding. Can you tell me about how much of the district's budget is, or the district's revenues are state funded and how much are locally sourced?
Sure. Currently, Sidney City School District state funding accounts for about 52 to 53% of our revenue collections. So the rest of the balance of that 100% of our revenue collections is needing to come from our local sources.
Great. Okay, well, thank you for joining me today and answering some of these questions and clearing some things up. If someone wants to learn more about school finances in general, or more specifically related to the operations of the Sidney City School District, what can they do?
Sure. Anyone who has additional questions or are really interested to learn some more information can feel free to call the board office and ask for me specifically, or they may also send me an email at michael.watkins@sydneycityschools.org.
All right, great. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Tiffany.